Do you have to force girls a little bit? I'm Cathy Bartoli from theintimacydojo.com.
I'm Reid from reidaboutsex.com. Give me context, Kath. Give me context.
Someone was talking about he had a date with someone he wanted to explore something sexually, and they hadn't been sexual before. Mm-hmm. And he was asking about being sexual, and she responded, "You have to force girls a little." And he was concerned about consent, which I think is a really good thing. And I thought that might be useful to talk about, because I think there is a lot of stereotypes out there that, yeah, the women are supposed to say no, 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 and the guy is supposed to keep trying until they I'm overcome.
So, thank you for writing in. I'm just going to jump to what I hope this is, right? Because you shouldn't force anybody to do anything ever, because it's just not, that's not how you leave the campsite better than you found it. However, I'm going to reinterpret this. I'm going to assume that the person who shared about being forced doesn't have all their context
and maybe it's kinky
and sex
for them,
geek.
or...
Yeah, what I hope they're saying is, it turns me on to be forced a little. And now we have a conversation of, oh, how do you like to be forced?
Yes.
And how can I do that for you? Like now it's about mindful or conscious seduction, or mindful consensual coercion, which I get why that can be a turn on.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, as a sex geek, you do not force people ever. And that, in having a short conversation, I'm pointing at the email here, in having a short conversation with that person to check in and be like, well, what do you mean by that? Is it a turn on for you? And for them to be like, no, you actually have to force people. And I'd be like, flag, that's a red flag. Flag on the play. Danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger, do not proceed, do not proceed. Because that, to me, is oh, if that's actually your worldview, I don't know that it's safe for me to play with you.
Yeah.
Because, that would just be such a flag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's no consent if that's not consent. That was what his concern was. Consent's really important. How do I establish consent in that scenario?
But again, for somebody who doesn't know the distinction between what's erotic, what's turning their brain on, and this is titillating, or for somebody who just thinks, no, this is society, women are supposed to withhold sex, and men are supposed to force us to have,
well, it's a rape culture. That's what a lot of people have been brought up with, unfortunately. And I think that you're getting something that someone can, if this was a kink, something that turns that person on, saying something is it, do you like to be forced for sex, or getting something that there's a verbal yes to, and then actually defining what does that look like, and what is your safe word, and using some of the consent boundaries that the BDSM community uses, where is the line there, and finding a safe container to play. Yeah.
So if you ever run into this situation and you're doing your due diligence and having these conversations, and the other person just rolls their eyes and they're like, oh my God, can't we just do this? Why do we have to talk about it? That is your signal to pull the plug on that fucking situation.
Yeah.
If you can talk it to death, I think you're better off. I mean, not that you have to be I'm going to see if I can break my record and talk about this for 6 hours.
And then there's no sex because we're talking the whole night.
But what I run into is people want things to be organic, which means they're uncomfortable about being explicit, usually, right? Not always, but for the most part, people are like, oh my God, Reid, why do you talk about these things so much? I'm like, you know why? Because I want to create a really safe experience that fucking rocks. I'm not trying to bore you. I'm trying to assess whether you're safe for me to play with.
Yeah.
If this is a good idea or not. And for people who can't get patient, or at least, be patient for that process, what it means is that it's dangerous. Even though I get it might be a turn on, let's not talk about it at all. Right? I get that that's a turn on, but we have to talk about not talking about it at all.
Well, one thing, if that's the case, like not just having it be like jumping in, talk about it another time. Set up a surprise date. Now Friday at 8 p.m. where I'm gonna come in and ravish you, unless you tell me that you changed your mind. Like talk and get the guidelines. Figure out what ravish really means.
This is called negotiation.
Yeah.
And and then you have safe words to be able to check in during it without having to process a lot, and you can put pause, you can give people go, green light, you can say red, whole thing comes to a screeching halt because we need to stop. Like all these things are how you play safely. If somebody needs to learn all that to then be able to be like literate, like erotically literate, awesome. But that means you now can help them learn those things.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you just throw all that stuff out because they think people need to be forced.
Yeah. Great. I'm really glad you brought that topic up.
Cool.
And thanks for writing in. We really appreciate it.
Hit like, hit subscribe, share this with a friend. Have fun.